Hi, and welcome to 52 Weeks Success Affirmations, 52 Weeks of Living a Purposeful, Passionate Life. I'm sure I said that wrong, but that's okay. Welcome if you're watching in. This is week 4 of Jack Canfield's book. I don't have the book today, um, but I do have the notes, and I've made subsets of the themes for today. So, we started off building a context around the 52 weeks, and we have gone through the first 3 weeks. And I'd love to hear more about your journey if you have been following along. I had a question that I thought I will bring into today's live, which was based on last week's um, affirmations and theme. And the question was around, the have, do, be, and the be, do, have. And if you have any questions regarding anything that comes up, please feel free and don't hesitate to send a message for questions that I can take as I come into the next live, like I am today. And I just wanted to briefly expand on that before I go into week 4, primarily because, while a lot of us are living largely, without really knowing, without the awareness of what we have adopted from the have to be perspective, it doesn't really, a lot of times we can feel shamed into some of our past decisions. But I always like to bring in this reminder for us to, treat ourselves with compassion as we are venturing into breaking down old paradigms, because a lot of times when we're revisiting experiences and things, that experiences that we have had based on the choices that we've made, it can bring up a lot of feelings, very deep feelings. And the invitation is to sit with whatever is coming up, while also remembering that we have the ability and the intelligence to vibrate higher, primarily because that's exactly what the transition and the transformation from the have to be, which is really about, let me give you an example. Let's say when you were very young, and you did something good. Usually it came with a reward. And A lot of times, these behaviors and the rewards are materialistic, and this can hold us in a cycle of the belief that everything revolves around the materialistic plane, and that's not a bad thing. That's absolutely not a bad thing. But then we start to frame our frame of reference around life starts to circle around things like that, which are on limited to the materialistic plane. But if we have to override that and start to step back from that paradigm and to say, what is the be do have, and how can I start from the being mode? It that becomes, it can be really hard, because our mode of survival, our mode of understanding this life has been and still continues to be, for a greater part of our collective, very, very materialistic. So, transcending that can sometimes require, you know, uh, probably an apprenticeship or spending time with someone who can serve as a guide or a coach, or, there's plenty of frameworks and material around, how to recreate, reframe, and redesign paradigms to for us to begin from the being mode. So I hope that, to the person who had sent me that question, I hope that that sort of addresses the parts that you had brought in based on last week's affirmations and themes. So, on to week 4, I want to swiftly move into this. Um, the theme for week 4 is for us to believe it's possible. So, um, you know, you probably see a pattern within these themes as well, because a lot of it revolves around belief. And, for anyone who has spent some time in, probably the neuro linguistic world, or the world of understanding or working with awareness and consciousness, probably come across themes and subsets of what beliefs are and why they're important, and how to really not just become aware of the beliefs that are running our life, but also to reconstruct and redesign our life from a belief perspective, from a paradigm perspective. Excuse me. Yes. And so we go to the first affirmation in this. I am releasing. I have to, despite my best efforts to uh, check typos, I always have parts of it. So the first affirmation in this is, I am releasing beliefs and negative statements that limit me, and I'm creating new positive statements that tell me my ideal future is possible. So this part of the theme is all about the expectancy theory, and you can look that up, because this is really where our brain and our mind has adopted certain, just the things that have been passed on to us from our family, from our community, from the environments, and largely from an unawareness mode, from an unconscious mode. And many times, many of these things might not really be serving us. They may not be serving our greater good and our growth. And if we are living from the expectation, for example, that if we do something we're going to fail, or we've tried it before and therefore we have a lot of fears around it, this can keep us pretty much stuck, because growth is all about going into those spaces. And no matter if it didn't work out, we always have the ability to sit with it and to develop, through the power of direct knowing and observation, the kind of skills, intellectual, psychological intelligence that we can apply to do better. And the doing is not always about action, but it's also about thought and our patterns of thought, right? So from that, from the function of that statement and this affirmation, the invitation for us is to look at places and spaces where there seems to be negativity cropping up, whether it is within us, or it is relational, personal, within business, and start to identify what are the statements. And as I'm saying this, what's coming up is that, these statements are usually things that we're telling ourselves. Um, if you've come across Eric Burns' work around, I think it was the book, I'm okay, you're okay, or you're okay, I'm okay. I forget the name, but you can always look it up. And his work around how, and I'm clearly oversimplifying his work, Eric Byrne, but he does talk about how each of us carries. The theory is about how each of us carries three roles within ourselves: the parent, the adult, and the child. And we are always interacting and interfacing with the world from these roles. And I would like to also add the dimension within this to say that a lot of times we're doing this within ourselves too. We have the inner critic, and we also have the inner coach. And while I say that, I know that these are parts that will come up in another week as well, about the inner critic and the inner coach. But all of that to say that we have to, especially in experiences and situations where we are noticing sort of negativity around that environment, around that situation. Where is it? It's within us. So, we have the responsibility and the freedom, excuse me, to sit with it. And a lot of times, I've with many clients, and all of us, learn uh, and also operate very differently. Some people are visual, so they're able to, instantly go into a memory and be able to express it verbally. But other times, I've noticed with clients that they need to really, be able to go into those moments through writing, because writing helps, create a certain flow, which they are more comfortable with. So, for us to identify what is that mode for us to get into flow state where these things are concerned, and to investigate it, bring it up, and identify what are the beliefs that I have about myself, um, in this situation, in this experience. And from that space, we have the opportunity, to then decide to reframe those beliefs into ones that from a positive expectation. So that that would be, where we have the opportunity to not just whether it's reframing it from a statement perspective, but also to move deeper into those reframed beliefs, reframed notions around that experience, because the experience is actually a lesson. It's a representation of and a reflection of that belief. So it's really an internal, invitation to uh, develop and master how to relook, how to revisit and relook at those beliefs more positively. And here's the thing, a lot of times I think it's very easy for us to um, slip into the mode of thinking positivity is excitement. But excitement is very surface level, isn't it? Think of all the times that you've been really excited. I catch myself in these modes too. But if we really have to go deeper into something more sustainable, something more mature and deeper, the idea of enthusiasm, inspiration, and inspired action are really fundamental tenets that we can integrate while we are reframing negative into positive. And the other part to this is, to look at what activities, what behaviors, what thoughts emanate from this belief that we are reframing. So that's really, where the first subset, the first sub theme is. We have the expectancy theory, um, and then, looking at the negative theory, and also, understanding that a lot of times we judge ourselves. There is a judgment layer to our expectations, because maybe we haven't really given ourselves the time to pause and to evaluate our contribution within a past experience. And while we're doing this, there could be harsh inner self-criticism, even to the extent of self-loathing. There could be low self-confidence. There could be, getting into the fight or flight mode, where it's so easy to freeze up and, feel paralyzed into doing nothing as well. So all of these are indications and invitations that we can use to move in closer, and to really go into identifying how we can move from the negative to the positive. Let's move on to the next affirmation. I choose to believe things are possible even when I don't know how they will happen. So, there are two parts to this affirmation, and the first part around the belief is that, uh, and I've seen this with myself, but I've also seen this with clients, where especially when we're working with something, it's a journey. It's a journey. Most of these things, while we can we can think intellectually that it can happen overnight. It can happen overnight. Yes, that is a reality. But it also requires application consistently, and being mindful. Sometimes, a lot of times, in fact, I'm of the belief, and this is something that I usually advise clients on as well, to have an accountability partner, because it's very easy. These are blind spots. We don't know what we don't know, and there could be triggers and times where certain situations will bring up a past version of us based on negative experiences, based on fears. So, how do we approach those kind of experiences? Can we rely on trusted people? Can we rely on people that have our best interests at heart? And so, while we want to operate and access the space of possibility, we also have to go into the shadows. We have to be ready to do the shadow work to understand where these roadblocks could come up. Now, one of that is about, like what I just said, fears of what we don't know. And, many times it's very easy to slip into this to the extent where we do nothing. And this is this is a very different mode from non-doing. Doing nothing is from a survival mode, where we kind of like the ostrich syndrome. If you've seen, excuse me, the ostrich syndrome of what the ostrich does when it's afraid. It's going to bury its head in the sand and pretend that uh, you know the issue, the problem, the challenge will just go away because it closes its eyes. But that really isn't possible. So denial, deflection, distraction, uh, projection, all of the coping mechanisms that, I don't know, was it Freud maybe who spoke about this? But all of those are really coping mechanisms that we adopt subconsciously. And so, really being able to observe, go into silence, pause, uh, trust our trusted people when they're pointing things out, and not be so harsh on ourselves when things will start to bubble up. And then the other part of this with regards to roadblocks are what we think we know, but they may not be true. Again, these are about several assumptions that we may have about our reality, about things in our reality, things in our world, and our experience, and how, again, the mind is very, very powerful. Uh, there is this very powerful exercise. I'm just right now reminded of it by Neville Goddard. Uh, I like saying God art, although it's spelled with an ARD at the end. And one of the exercises that he reminds us of is that if, as we are reflecting back on our day, if there's something that, was off and didn't end on a good or positive note, how we can revisit that situation in our mind and go back into it, and really be able to, apply love, apply compassion, apply forgiveness from a perspective of our role in that situation and what could have gone differently, and be able to reimagine it from that perspective. And I have noticed that um, this is a very powerful tool because our mind is a very powerful tool. Um, our attitude and the way we feel about ourselves and the energy that we carry begins within the imagination. And being able to intend not really the outcome, but the energy within that, and be able to harness it energetically inside of our field, can actually yield some very powerful, worthwhile results. So this is something that I have personally experienced, and I think it really also um, it requires um, a deep degree of belief and faith, and courage as well, because a lot of times our own contribution is where uh, things lie. And I want to go back. I don't think it's a lot of times. I think most of the time, our sense of responsibility, our accountability can be held at the highest degree. So let's move on to affirmation three. And this is, I'm working towards fulfilling my goals every day. And I easily move past those times when my expectations are not met. I'm just looking at the screenshot from that. As I think about fulfillment and creating a sense of connection to fulfillment and what that feels for me, because I think it's important for us to stay open to what that means in the moment. We are dynamic beings. That's the reason we have a degree of consciousness, um, and the ability to think, learn, unlearn, access, um, and connect, and really understand patterns. I think these are very powerful modalities and frameworks for us to access. And while we are getting into this mode of expecting, but also believing things are possible, I think it's also important uh, to recognize and acknowledge that the inner development and the road ahead, whether it's a step by step acknowledgement or far beyond that, um, allows us to also practice patience, reverence for the journey. Because more than where we need to go, it's in the everyday things, isn't it? It's in the everyday moments and the steps that incrementally build to the next and the next and what's coming up. And here's where I think we also need to evaluate our our expectations as well, because if we think that with everything that we want or everything that we do we're going to get an unequivocal yes, then I think we're off target, because our actions and what kind of thoughts and the patterns that strengthen around the actions are our own. However, there are a lot of things that we have to adapt to in our environment. Therefore, being fully accountable for the way we show up, uh, the kind of choices of our behavior is completely in our hands. But we also have to, have the humility have the grace, have the compassion to slow down and to notice things as they are unfolding, and to appreciate everything in its, in its oneness, in its totality. Because uh, we we are limited by the small mind that operates from a belief that we know. But I think it's very beautiful and very powerful and very profound if we, practice the space and create that spaciousness inside of ourselves, inside of our inner being, in our inner world, to allow things to unfold. And it's so magical and so beautiful. I'm reminded of, if you're watching in and you also do work around the chakras, and this is something I was thinking about today, because with the chakras, I remember years back when I started to learn about it, and I understood that, the way the chakras open is a very different experience for everyone. For some, the belief and the claim is that while it starts from the root, a lot of times your root chakra might be the last chakra to open, and it might happen very late. And that's one perspective and one philosophy to it. I've heard others, talk about how they've had all their chakras open at once. And I say all of that because all of these things, why are we doing it? What is the fundamental purpose behind all of this, all of these things that we're talking about and we are exchanging energy about? It's really about our growth and, feeling that connection. It's really inside of us, but as this unfolding, just like the lotus, just like the way the analogy of the chakras, it's a journey. And, that time through the journey is worth the pause, it's worth the slowing down, it's worth the appreciation and the gratitude. And, as we close this theme of expectations, but also believing that the wonder is possible, I would like to dovetail into the power of gratitude. And as a reminder of how, whenever we start to notice even the smaller things, a lot of times we get caught up in thinking that it has to be like these big things that we have to be grateful for. But no, even waking up in the morning, knowing that we are alive and we're healthy, and we look around and we have so many things that we can be grateful for, is also a reminder of us slipping into the mode of receiving. And I know, I can fully admit to the fact that, excuse me, I have, in a lot of areas in my life, I have struggled to receive. And, just noticing it and acknowledging it has been a journey, and it's helped me find peace and be able to realize that, the softness and the vulnerability and the beauty of being in an open receiving mode is really where um, these powerful manifestations begin to unfold and unravel. And that's also part of the secret essence of, these esoteric mysteries that we are living out in the three-dimensional reality. And although all of this is unplanned through this series, it seems to be downloading for me to share with you, because while the universe continues to send us and show us and download, that's a very masculine mode, the universe giving. And for us to be open with our from our hearts and to notice and to be soft and slow and receiving is very feminine mode. That this is nothing to do with gender, but really being able to harness what is coming through us and coming to us. And that's a very powerful transmission, the transmission of gratitude. And the more we operate operate seems and feels very masculine, but the more we can feel into this receiving mode, we start to realize that more comes our way. And it's such a beautiful loop of giving and receiving. So I would like to treat this as an invitation to invite you, if you are watching in and you are on this journey with us, um, to think about how, from moment to moment and one day to another, how this mode of being in the transmission of receiving, um, it doesn't have to be from the environment, it's from the universe. And the universe delivers through the environment, through situations, through people. That's how we start to see it from a higher vibration. So I'd love to use this moment as an invitation to see whether this aligns with you, whether it resonates with you, and how this is playing out thus far. And thank you so much for being on this journey. I have been really genuinely enjoying, this week on week unpacking of the themes and the affirmations. And I would love to continue to encourage you to, if you have questions or how you're feeling through these weeks as well, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to send them my way. And I wish you a marvelous rest of your weekend. Thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.